Ladies and gentlemen, I've always told you there is a difference between what is ideal and what is real. And in most cases, you will end up siding with what is real, even if it doesn't sound or look ideal. Take Fred Okango Matiangi, for instance. His introduction to Kenya's politics was done by none other than Uhuru Kenyatta. You remember during the 2022 election, Okengo Matiangi, even though he was a civil servant, a public servant for that matter, he was very involved in politics. I think to the point that Uhuru Kenyatta created a party for him, a political party for him, for purposes of making him have a voice in Nyamira and Kisii. Then, a few months after elections, Matiangi had issues here and there. But the person who introduced Matiangi again to politics is none other than that same Uhuru Kenyatta through his party secretary general, Jeremiah Kioni. And he announced, to quote Jeremiah Kioni, that Jubilee has sat down and has resolved that their presidential candidate come 2027 will be none other than Fred Okengo Matiangi. So the ideal way of handling things would be Matiangi comes back from the United States and focuses mostly on popularizing Jubilee, even demanding to take over as the party leader. Because as far as I remember, Jubilee party constitution is very simple. Jubilee party constitution is very straightforward, unless it is mutilated, because Jubilee has gone through a lot of changes and struggles. Unless it is mutilated, it says that the party leader will be the presidential candidate and the deputy party leader be the deputy presidential candidate. So Matiangi would have come back, popularized Jubilee, become the party leader of Jubilee, and start moving around. But then something happened, which takes us to the reality part. This is the ideal thing to do. But reality is, the so-called Gen Zs who were chanting Matiangi's praises, Matiangi came to realize were nothing more than just the youth wing of Rigathi and his supporters. To be blunt, these were just Kikuyu youths who didn't like Ruto, but also were so ashamed of embracing Rigathi Gachagua as their presidential candidate. So they wanted somebody to hide behind, and for some reason, they stuck on Matiangi. And so Matiangi realized that if he came and went the Jubilee way, he would be parting ways with Rigathi Gachagua. And that also meant that the so-called Gen Zs were going to leave him. Now, there are some who say that is so far-fetched. You are looking at politics from what angle? These Gen Zs are genuine. These are people who love Matiangi. They don't care which party. In fact, supporters of Matiangi are not supporters of Rigathi Gachagua. I say it, let's be patient. Time will vindicate us. And so for a while, Matiangi has been moving around with Rigathi and Kalonzo, etc., without giving even a second to Jubilee Party. He's not attending the Jubilee Party meeting. He's not popularized Jubilee anywhere. Even when called to for interviews, Matiangi has never taken time to tell people about Jubilee Party. And as long as he did that, he was still the favorite of the so-called Gen Zs. And even the bloggers were all over praising him and calling him Audacity of Hope. Then he went the ideal route. And recently, Matiangi met the Jubilee leadership led by Jeremiah Kioni. And when he did that, hell broke loose, ladies and gentlemen. The so-called united opposition was not so united after Matiangi met Jubilee. And what made matters even worse is that Jeremiah Kioni announced that Jubilee was going to have a national delegates meeting. And in that particular meeting, Uhuru Kenyatta was going to give them the way forward. And the reason as to why they did not invite the likes of Kalonzo, etc., is because if you bring members of other parties, it might bring you problems and challenges, legal challenges, that is. That is to quote Jeremiah Kioni. And so he said that Mheshimiwa Matiangi You are our candidate. We don't have any other presidential candidate for 2027. And you have the support of one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And this did not please so many supporters of Rigathi Gachagua, and of course, so many supporters of Kalonzo Musyoka. And in this video, I want to tell you why. If that is a topic that interests you, continue watching. And if you're watching this channel for the first time, take a second, subscribe to the channel so that you're notified whenever we produce videos of this sort. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're really getting value from this kind of videos, like this one and share it with your friends. As I was saying, Matiangi went the ideal route where you meet Jubilee and you purpose to popularize that party. While Matiangi has not personally come out and said so, the gesture of meeting Jubilee leaders and sitting down and listening to Jeremiah Kioni and the promises that came with him, you understand that Matiangi perhaps has realized that without a political party to begin with in the so-called united opposition, he is disadvantaged. Kalonzo has a party, Eugene has a political party. Somehow somebody told them that they should change the name of their parties to include the word liberation. So Martha went to liberation. Kalonzo, I think, also has some liberation in the name of his new party. But the point is, Kalonzo is a party leader. Martha Karua is a party leader. Eugene Wamalwa is a party leader. Rigathi Gachagua is a party leader, though contentious, but he is a party leader. It gives these people an edge over one Matiangi, because when they go to these meetings, they would be meeting as party leaders when Matiangi does not have a party. Even if Matiangi was to decide and revive the party that Uhuru created for him before the 2022 general election, that party would not be as popular or as well known as Jubilee Party. So Matiangi seemingly is choosing Jubilee to be his political party. So why would these people be sad? I thought Rigathi, in an interview with the Gusii media, told them that Matiangi needed a political party to begin with. So why are they angry? Why are the bloggers now denouncing Matiangi? Why are the Gen Zs no longer excited about Matiangi anymore? Because the plan has never been to have Matiangi be anything. And if he was to be anything, he must be something they can control. They want a candidate who is going to sing their tune. If Rigathi cannot vie, as the law does not allow him anyway, they want to fill someone who they can control. And the best way to control that someone is if that person is a member of a political party he runs. For instance, Rigathi would be very happy if Matiangi joined DCP, so that even though he's threatening to vie, eventually he will allow Matiangi to vie in his stead, but he will be the one controlling Matiangi. That is all. That is all they wanted. But you see, Jubilee brings a different game altogether. It complicates things for Rigathi, because that Jubilee is owned by one Uhuru Kenyatta, who for some reasons has refused to forgive Rigathi Gachagua. Rigathi Gachagua has literally, ladies and gentlemen, begged Uhuru Kenyatta for forgiveness, praised him from one interview to the next, called him our king. Uhuru Kenyatta has done everything to tell Rigathi Gachagua that I do not like you. Even when they shared a podium, when they met in Meru, Uhuru Kenyatta would rather laugh with Kindiki Kithure and William Ruto than to even say hi to Rigathi Gachagua. So he is not interested in anything to do with Rigathi Gachagua. That is why you see Jeremiah Kioni doesn't attend Rigathi Gachagua's events. Why? Because according to Uhuru Kenyatta, Rigathi Gachagua somehow is an enemy. And Rigathi Gachagua also doesn't want Uhuru Kenyatta to support him for the sake of him playing second fiddle to Uhuru Kenyatta. Even when he says Uhuru Kenyatta is our king, that is not a genuine statement. He wants Uhuru Kenyatta's endorsement because with that endorsement comes money. Rigathi Gachagua needs that if he's going to run a successful anti-Ruto campaign. He needs money. And Uhuru Kenyatta has that money. So if Uhuru Kenyatta is to back, let's say, Matiangi on a Jubilee ticket, they would want to also propel and promote Matiangi as a member of a Kikuyu party. So that denies Rigathi the only opportunity he had of painting himself as the only Kikuyu party. You see, currently, Rigathi wants you to believe that DCP is the only party that represents the Kikuyu community or the Mount Kenya people. Uhuru also wants you to believe that Jubilee is the party that predominantly represents the people of Mount Kenya. If Matiangi was to vie on Jubilee ticket with the support of Uhuru Kenyatta, he complicates things for Rigathi Gachagua. Because in that case, even if Rigathi Gachagua was to endorse Kalonzo Musyoka, and give Kalonzo Musyoka a Kikuyu running mate, let's say Justin Muturi or even Martha Karua in that case, they still will have to contend with Matiangi, who will also be angling for the Kikuyu vote. And that is not making Rigathi happy. That is why Rigathi doesn't like this idea of Matiangi being in Jubilee. He would rather Matiangi be hopeless somewhere so that he can do him a favor. But if he's in a Jubilee party and he has roots and is supported by the money that comes with Uhuru's support, then he is a threat. Number two, Rigathi also has the feeling that Matiangi, since he's not attacking William Ruto, he could be a project of William Ruto. And this is why they argue that he could be a project of William Ruto. If he vies through Jubilee and you saw the closeness of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, even when Uhuru was in State House the other day, these people were talking as friends, they were laughing, doing things, etc. That type of closeness made Rigathi very careful with whatever Uhuru supports, because it feels like Uhuru Uhuru might be used by William Ruto to divide the Mount Kenya vote. And if they manage to get a candidate that some Kikuyus already like and might support, then William Ruto's work in Mount Kenya becomes a little bit easier. And so those are the reasons why Rigathi Gachagua is not happy with Matiangi joining Jubilee, let alone vying as a Jubilee presidential candidate. But what about Kalonzo Musyoka? Why would he be unhappy? For Kalonzo Musyoka, I told you his politics is politics of endorsement. His belief is that you do the hard work and you come and endorse him because he deserves. He is expecting Rigathi Gachagua to endorse him for the 2027, and that is why 2027 election, and that is why Kalonzo and his MPs can always do anything to appease Rigathi Gachagua. The belief was that Matiangi might come and be his running mate. In Kalonzo's mind, is supposed to be the candidate endorsed by Rigathi Gachagua, and then because Matiangi has no home, he can be co-opted and become the running mate. Now, if he's in Jubilee and is going full throttle and is going to the ballot, that complicates things for Kalonzo, because now he has to look for another running mate, yet he wanted to maybe take advantage of the small support Matiangi enjoys. Ladies and gentlemen, I could go on, but I want to tell you that the so-called united opposition is not happy with Matiangi finding home in the Jubilee Party, and I've shared with you the reasons why. If you found value in this video, let me know in the comment section. If you are watching this channel for the first time and you're yet to subscribe, or you are a frequent viewer who is yet to subscribe, please take a second, subscribe to the channel so that we grow together. And also, if you do find value in these videos, don't forget to like this one and share it with your friends. Otherwise, if you want to know more why Matiangi complicates things for Rigathi Gachagua, watch this video.